think it says we're live.
Yeah.
We are. Yeah.
We're live.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Um, I tried to comment on the YouTube thing, but it's like not letting me do it. All right, we're going to talk about the skip event today. So this summer, I believe the second half of July, we're going to be doing the skip event again, and we've done it several years now. I know that Mike and Opalyn have a bunch of BBs lined up for noobs to work on processing, but then for the people that have 40 BBs already, maybe the people that attended last year, it seems like, so for example, Mike and Opalyn, every time that you've done this event, I imagine you've added a few more BBs to your own collection. Oh,
A couple. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep,
yeah.
definitely.
And so it seems like last year, I remember we had somebody who had 40 plus BBs, Jay, and
Yep.
she seemed to rack up a few a day. I think she was knocking them out, and while simultaneously helping noobs get their BBs, which I think is a big thing. I mean, all of Skip can be done at home. You don't have to come here, I don't think, but there's some things where it's easier maybe to come here. But I think even more importantly than all of that is the whole concept of being able to work on BBs with other people that are working on BBs.
Definitely.
And I imagine it probably goes about 2 or 3 times faster doing it here with others than if you tried to do it at home. I know that there's some things like Stephen was telling me that he doesn't care for all of the kindling crackers that we have that are homemade. And I know that Samantha was here once, and I was trying to cut some wood on one of those kindling crackers, and I had to get out a grinder, and the edge was a bit like this. And so when you try to put a block of wood on it and cut it, it just bounces right back off. So I kind of made it a little bit more like this, and then it worked much better. I kind of feel like what we had here was of a quality that was just enough to get the BB, but I don't think whoever made it actually tried to do any kindling cracking. Like I don't want to do that's not part of the BB. I don't have to test it. I have enough now to get the BB.
That there is a lot of learning that happens. And for example, this is my first spoon.
Nice.
So there's a sand level spoon and there's a carving set at Wheaton Labs, and people often do make a spoon. So it's a little rough. And the next day I went out and I got another piece of wood, and then I got out the sanding block and a little piece of sandpaper and the same carving kit, but just a little bit more work. And this is actually a spoon that I'd like feel comfortable using.
Yeah.
Without getting a sliver.
That's nice.
And
that looks like
that's
it'll pass
also
the soup
part of
test.
the PEP program is like building on skills. So this is a sand level spoon and this is a straw level, and your skills improve, your dexterity in handling the tools, your knowledge of handling the tools, and it goes a lot quicker to do this. So I know there's a lot of acronyms that people are like, what does all this mean? So Mike, what is SKIP?
Ooh, that's a great question. So SKIP is the overall umbrella for these programs called Skills to Inherit Property. At the moment, there are 3 programs beneath that. The one we talk about an awful lot on here is PEP, which is Permaculture Experience According to Paul, who is there.
Hi,
me.
Paul.
Hi, Paul. So that's a bunch of stuff that's important permaculture things for permaculture and homesteading that Paul thinks are important for his site in Montana. And so they take advantage of things he's got and also are things he's passionate about. So you'll see a lot of hugelkultur and rockety stuff in there, and that's wonderful. So this SKIP event is pretty much focused on PEP activities. So luckily we're having it in Montana where all those rockety things exist. There's also PEA, which is permaculture experience for apartments. And then I'm mostly, or 2/3 of the way through developing PEM, which is permaculture experience according to Mike. So it's Wisconsin-y stuff. So yeah, with this wonderful skip event for 2 weeks, I guess maybe to summarize a little of what you'll be doing when you sign up for this amazingly cheap vacation to Montana is we've got 2 weeks of activities planned. There's 2 tracks, so you can follow down one track, and in that we can talk about what badges you'll be able to get. But there's 2 tracks that focus on a bunch of different badges. We try to focus on things that are easier to do at Paul's place, or maybe harder to do for you back home. So things like cutting down trees, using an excavator, making a hugelkultur, using rocket contraptions. Not all that. It's summer, so you won't get to do too much heating with it. But
not
cooking,
in the summer. We don't do very much rockety.
Yeah, well, but the rocket oven, rocket cooktop, rocket heating water with a rocket. There's a number of BBs in there. BB stands for badge bit. So within a given badge, there's a bunch of little bits that you need to complete to get it. So we call BBs as a short word for badge bits. So yeah, there are definitely some badge bits within food prep and maybe one other one that helps have a rocket around. So come out to Montana, you can get all those BBs done a lot easier and by just being on site with all the support. So yeah, the event is 2 weeks. I think we get the whole weekend off in the middle, which you'll need because this is not easy. This isn't a classroom exercise. This is all hard work. It's as hard a work as you want it to be because you can take your time and carve a spoon all day and then cut down a tree and limit for another day. And you can get some BBs at whatever pace you want. We have the schedule set up to be what an ambitious person can probably get done if they bust it a little bit, maybe do a little after hours work if they have to. And, there's wide variability in how long it takes somebody to make a mallet or any number of other things. So we have the schedule arranged that it can be hard work for you, but by doing so, you can get a number of badges that are hard to get back home in Indiana.
So Mike was talking about 2 different tracks, and the first one we have 5 badges that are the focus of that track, and with a little bit of extra work you can earn all 5 badges. So that's gardening, roundwood, woodland care, dimensional lumber woodworking, and metalworking. If you want to work on the other track, there's 2 focused badges plus another 5 to 7 that are enabled. So we focus on the parts that are hard to do at home. So a lot of people don't have a rocket stove or a hay box. And so that's a food prep one that we encourage people to do while they're there, as well as solar dehydrating. So there's 2 solar dehydrators at Wheaton Labs. So if you do those 2 badges at Wheaton Labs, you can do the other 11 badge bits. Excuse me. If you do those 2 badge bits at Wheaton Labs, you can do the other 11 or so at home. It's cooking a meal, things like that, and you'll get that badge. So the focused badges for track 2 are natural building and earthworks. And then there's a lot of help with the more challenging badge bits in food prep, foraging, homesteading, textiles, tool care, and then possibilities in animal care and natural medicine. So that's sort of the schedule with the 2 tracks. And Mike and Samantha and I are 3 of your instructors for this year. Paul will be there. Yeah.
Paul will be instructing the rock jacks.
Oh. Don't use spikes.
No.
Just kidding. I've heard questions about if you can jump back and forth between tracks. And yes, you can do whatever you want. At any given moment, we'll have the schedule up, and it's like, okay, this morning, track 1 will be doing. Okay, maybe I'll just click on
hugelkultur up at the lab. We're going to go and drive the excavator. So, how many people are going to want to drive the excavator today? And then, usually we limit it to 3 people. And then that way, one person gets up and they make a certain amount of hugelkultur. Then the next person while the other two people are getting their wood ready or whatever. And then the second person drives the excavator, and then third person drives the excavator. And sometimes there's other BBs they can work on when somebody else is driving the excavator, kind of a thing. And then the next day it's like, okay, who else wants to do, because everybody wants to drive the excavator all at once. And it's like, well, there's a time travel complication in there somewhere that doesn't allow that. Plus the cab on the excavator isn't that big. So it's like, all right. So then today who's working on, and it does seem like, what's funny is, did any 3-log benches get made last year? Because it seems like that used to be the theme of every skip event. I do know that there's a point up here where the tents are, and they put 3-log benches all together like stadium seating or something. And it's kind of like, but further up, there's none. And it's kind of like, at the hangar tree, it would be nice to have a 3-log bench there, but I don't know. So there were 3-log benches made last year.
Yep.
They grow legs. I went looking for the ones we put up there 2 years ago, and at least one had moved. So we spread them around, and then they roll around, or walk something.
All right.
But yeah. So for that example, like we've got on track 1, day 1, 2, and 3 is hugelkultur, and then in your spare time, getting 3 scoops with an excavator, harvesting junk poles and stuff like that. Whereas if you're in track 2, you can do sharpening tools. There's a whole bunch of tools to sharpen, and potentially doing some rock jack work. So you can go whichever track you want. The challenge is, if you're going to do the hugel, it might take all 3 days, all 3 mornings to do it. So, and if they're at different sites, you can't easily work on your hugel for a bit and then run down to base camp and sharpen tools and then run back up and work on your hugel. So you do have to kind of decide, but we'll have the schedule published a little in advance, and you'll be able to think about how you want to spend your day each day. But yeah, you can move between tracks. Mm-hmm. We don't want people. It's fun to start projects and not finish them. So we try to encourage people to, if you get your 3-log bench halfway built, and then you see a squirrel, or you decide you want to do the next thing, that's great for a little bit, and you can always work on your 3-log bench after dinner. But we try to encourage people not to start 12 projects and get them only half done. So there's an element of, you can move back and forth, but it'd be nice if you didn't leave a whole lot of projects laying around undone.
So in order to be able to talk about this a little bit more, I know that Andreas has queued up that video that he made about what is skip. So how about if we go ahead and let that video pop in here? It's only like 2 minutes long. And then we can kind of build on it after. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, let's watch it.
Great.
Yeah, do it. Go on.
A few years ago, the natural building genius Mike Ayler asked me to find someone worthy to inherit his land. He needed to know his projects would continue to move forward and not be bulldozed for a strip mall. When he died, Mike's estate included several homes, vehicles, cash, and a strong income stream from his books. Over the years, Mike had more than 100 interns, but none of them made the cut. Mike needed more than what any of them brought to the table. And Mike is just one example. I've had this exact same conversation with dozens of other landowners looking for somebody worthy. Each year in the U.S., millions of acres of farmland are abandoned. How can we connect those acres with people that want to build a better world? I made a list of things people could accomplish and document. Things that would impress people like Mike. Kind of like a college degree in homesteading, but with purely physical accomplishments, like growing a garden, building a shed, building a small pond, or felling a tree. And smaller but still important accomplishments like preserving fruit, mending a tool, foraging for mushrooms, or fixing a leaky faucet. Thanks to the community at Permies.com, that list has now grown into something substantial. We call it SKIP, Skills to Inherit Property, a chance to skip the rat race. If you complete SKIP, there are hundreds of thousands of people, like Mike, prepared to leave their land to you. The first level is about 80 tasks that can be done in 2 or 3 weeks. The next levels get more impressive and take more time. Then we made another program that can be done by people living in apartments anywhere in the world. We designed Skip to be free for everybody. Your accomplishments are verified by the Skip community, and later you will verify the accomplishments of others.
Okay, so this remains a completely free program. Anybody could do it at home, even if they're in an apartment, wherever they are, and they don't need to give me or anybody a nickel. And so they can do it all that they want. And there's a lot of people doing exactly that. And more power to them. And I think our community is very supportive of them, totally free. So coming here for this thing that we're doing. So we basically have been selling the tickets for a certain price, and it's kind of like, let's fill the event. And so we're offering the tickets for $450, but just for the next couple of days. And it's a thing where if we sell exactly 12 tickets, then we will go to the people who've already bought tickets and we will refund them the difference. And then we're going to call it full. We're going to call the event completely full. So if somebody tries to buy a 13th ticket, we're going to say, no, you don't get it. And so the thing is that it's kind of like, and part of it is, a big part of this is that I kind of feel like I want to use the word revolutionary. I mean, this is really weird, right? This is different. I don't know of anything like it really. Some people try to equate it to Boy Scout stuff, but I think that this probably has 1,000 times more value than Boy Scout badges. And on top of that, I got to say, I think that about 80% or more of the people, 80 to 90% of the people that are getting the BBs have no intention of ever inheriting any land. They've got their own motivations. And it's like, I don't know. I think that there's a certain substance. And then on top of that, I don't know. I keep getting asked by people that are talking about, like, I want to go to college. Which college should I go to? And what should be my major? And what do I want to get a degree in or an advanced degree in? And things of that nature. And they're prepared to take on $100,000 worth of debt. And then I ask them this weird question, which makes no sense. And the conversation usually ends shortly after that. Like, okay, let's suppose that you go and you get a degree in something. And it goes great. You get a 4.0. Awesome. And then immediately you get a worky job and you get your career going and you work and you pay back the loan in 25 years. That's apparently the average time it takes to pay back a student loan. Then you start to save up money. And then you're going to retire, right? And so where do you want to, and so what I'm thinking is that, and of course, their idea of retirement, they probably have never thought of it. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, like, of course you want to retire on a permaculture homestead, right? and then it's like, okay, now let me see if I can arrange for you a shortcut to retirement. No debt. You go, right to having a great house and all. But anyway, I am frustrated so like I hear about, here I live in Missoula, and so I hear about University of Montana had record enrollment in Missoula, and I'm kind of thinking, like, why don't we have numbers equivalent to that in the SKIP program every year? And it's like, I don't know, maybe it's something that's going to become popular 100 years after I'm dead or something. It has to be one of those things, maybe.
Well, I do have some encouraging news, Paul.
Okay.
Someone from Tennessee says, I'm so happy about the interest in the SKIP event. A few months ago, she saw an ad for the Skip program and other permy stuff in front register magazines at the Dollar Tree in my town. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was great to see. I asked her if she has any photos or other information about that.
Super.
That's really exciting.
I was contacted about 8 months ago by this organization that says we make lots of these little magazines that we put in the dollar store. And we love what you're doing. So if you run a full page ad, we're going to give you this brutally sweet price. And so the price was very, very sweet. And so I said, okay. So I gave them this small amount of money, and then they put the ads in I think 6 different magazines that appear at dollar stores.
Nice.
Yeah. And maybe it's working. I don't know.
Somebody saw it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that whenever I think of who is the audience for Skip, I tend to think that the best audience is 17-year-olds. I mean, because they haven't bought into the debt yet, right? They haven't made the leap into $100,000 worth of debt. And I don't know, it's just a perfect spot to start. I mean, okay, you guys have read all the Skip stuff. Mike and Opalyn and Smith, you guys helped me write this stuff. 17? What do you think?
Sure.
Yeah, I would say there's lots of audiences. I would say the biggest opportunity is probably that teenagers year. And I think homeschoolers, especially as they get a little older, and that's a prime audience for this sort of a thing. Once you get all that college debt, and it gets a little tricky to do anything but grind it out until you're dead. Folks that didn't do the college thing and maybe are doing a non-college-y job and aren't in a ton of debt but aren't getting ahead, working, driving a vehicle or a truck around delivering stuff or whatever. And there could be lots of folks in the 30 and under range that don't have a ton of debt, aren't getting ahead, and like working with their hands anyway. So there's lots of audiences. Lots of people can be into this. But yeah, elder teens, I think, are the biggest.
For anybody that's thinking about inheriting property, I think for any one of those, I think that there are 3 people where they have already inherited property and they're thinking I don't know what I'm doing. I want to do the thing, but I don't know what that is. And so they're like, what do I do? And I kind of feel like Skip really helps them get started. And it's even if they're okay, I inherited it and it's over there, and right now I live in town, and I'm going to go there in maybe a couple of years and start. And it's
inherited or bought. I think there's even more people that bought land and are like, oh, now what do I do? So I think it could be both, inherited or bought land. You have land, you don't know what to do with it. You want to do the things, you don't know what the things are. You got some tools, you don't know what to do with them. You want to make a spoon, you don't know how to start. But
or why should you make a spoon if you just bought land? Yeah. And it's kind of well, okay, surely they have silverware, but I kind of feel like there's a lot of people that are like, why would you ever carve a wooden spoon when you can go buy them at the dollar store for $1 and they seem perfectly fine? And I do feel like carving a wooden spoon is a stepping stone. It's why should you learn addition when what you really need is algebra? And it's kind of like, okay, we gotta do addition before we can even talk about algebra. So kind of that kind of thing. Ooh, there's a thing popping up on the screen.
Yeah.
Hard to realize. Oh yeah. I can't solve that. At the same time, I feel like there's probably a million 17-year-olds right now that could understand this and get it, but they just don't know that it exists. And I don't know how to get it out there more. I don't, and that's part of the reason why I'm offering these tickets for cheap right now, which, hopefully we're bumping the link to that over and over and over again. But I kind of feel like if a bunch of people who have only a mediocre interest in skip come out to our event, and we can kind of get this whole thing moving forward more, because that's another thing. I think if somebody's 17 and they look and they say, oh, there's only like 500 people that have done it, that doesn't seem like very many. I don't know if I suspect it's not for me. Whereas if it was like, 50,000 people have done it, then they might be more interested in contemplating it, considering it. So I kind of feel like we need to get more bodies in order to affect larger scale change. And it's kind of like, it's hard to have a marketing program for a thing when you're giving it away for free.
Yeah. One thing we struggle with, I think, is that a lot of people, when you go to college, that's a very established path. You are not breaking new ground. Here, it's free. That's a nice deal. But you don't know that they're actually older folks looking to give away their hard-earned land. And are there really any Otises out there? And well, here's Thomas is one.
I've been contacted by 2 women who are Otises, and we've been talking on through the Permies purple messages, and it's been a really interesting conversation. Due to various circumstances, it's not a property that I could take on or become the heir of, but they're out there.
Yeah, there's Otises. They're all over the place, and they do exist. So I think just seeing like Thomas posting here about it, and Opalyn having been contacted by 2, I've been contacted not about property things, but just Otises saying that they exist by 30 people now. So we've got there's a lot of Otises out there. This new path that people would have to take or are taking. It's not like college. It's not predefined and assumed and expected, but there are Otises at the end of this path.
So I know that Mike, you have heard from over 30 people that since the book came out. And then, of course, at the very beginning of the book, I talk about Mike Ayler, but Mike was just one of several dozen people that I'd heard from before the book came out. I mean, when I was talking to Mike, and he died long before the book came out, there were so many people contacting me, offering me land, and also trying to say, can you just name somebody, which was exactly what Mike was doing. He's like, can you name one person who meets my standards? And I tell you, his standards got a little weaker every month as he felt like his time was coming. And in the end, he didn't find somebody. And so they're out there. All that said, I mean, I kind of feel like part of me is like, I really want to do these tickets cheap to the event this year for so many reasons. But one of them is can we get 6 or 7 people to take some land? Because the Otises are losing their shit. They are coming unglued. They are losing their patience, and the time is ticking, and they're desperate. And we don't have a single person at PEP 2 yet. I keep telling them, wait for the first person to hit PEP 2. Clearly, they're talking to Opalyn, who has not quite hit PEP 2 yet. They're like, get an idea that they're like losing it. They are like, I won't wait anymore. I got to just grab whoever's at the top of the list and run with them now. So there's that. while simultaneously, it seems like for every person who's like that's working at being a skipper with the idea of eventually getting land, I think that there's like 10 people who enjoy the skipper path and they have no intention of ever getting land for whatever their reason is. And I do think that there's a lot of other potential benefits, but just learning how to do this stuff is one. And another one is to build some reputation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, boy, you build this
Yeah.
reputation at Permies. It is solid. You got somebody who's got BB60 saying, this is what I think. And then somebody else who has 0 BBs with a different opinion. I don't know. I think the person with BB60 carries it, every time. It's like, this is a for real. We don't even know if this other person's an AI bot or not, but you're not going to have an AI bot getting BBs.
Right.
So, I think it's some pretty solid reputation, but all right. So they have all their different, we started with the whole inherit property thing. That's how we started making this whole program, is because when you hear from somebody who's like in their 80s and they feel like they're about to punch out, and it's like, give me somebody worthy. And they kind of need that element of like, what makes a person worthy? Because they can find they're sick to death of sleaze. They're sick to death of people who say, oh, give it to me, I'm worthy. And they're not. And it's like they're just going to take it and sell it. Because for the Otises, the big thing is I have loved this property for 80 years.
Yeah.
And I just want somebody to keep loving it. That's all they really want. Whereas for every person that might actually love it, I bet there's 100 that are willing to say that they will, just so that once that person's dead, they can sell it and liquidate it. So they want somebody that they believe will authentically continue to love that property after they're gone. And so, but boy, that's motivating when you visit with these people and they're like, why can't you, shouldn't it be easy to do this? So I think we came up with something which is pretty easy, especially considering what you're going to end up with. But that's apparently, I'm calling it skip may have been a big error, because most of the people just want to do projects and get verified that they did the projects. So Mike, you've talked to a bunch of these people. I've talked to a bunch of these people. Opalyn has now talked to 2 women. Samantha, I'm sure you've encountered people where they've got land and they're like, I wish I could will this to somebody. You know anybody?
There's wonderful properties out there and so much opportunity.
Yeah.
You just have to do the work.
Let's talk about 17-year-olds for just a second. I think that I don't know what the legality is for us to offer something for 17-year-olds. I don't want to get into that. I think that what we are set up for is if an adult shows up with a 17-year-old in tow that they're like looking out for, their kin to, or I don't know, mom or dad, whatever the dealio is, then it's like, and they're going to do this whole thing elbow to elbow. I'm all set. We're good. That's 2 people, 2 tickets. So it's kind of like we've set things up for people that are age 12 to 17 to be here with a parental unit like person. And I think that that's perfect for this event. So I would really like to see a lot of that happen. And I don't think we've got any of those lined up yet this year. But that would be buying 2 tickets, and we have made it crazy cheap. And I'd like to kind of see that happen. And I don't know. I think another thing is that as a parental unit, if you've got a kid that hits BB60, I don't know. Do you feel like proud of your kid?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not only is that some real shit, that's some real substantial stuff, but on top of that, they've chipped away at something so that they might even be able to go through and like meet an Otis. It's like that your kid could end up in better financial shape than you by the time that they hit 18. I don't know. I think that that's pretty cool, but and I guess now, so Mike, did you say we have one Otis here today?
Well, Thomas kind of identified himself as an Otis in his first post. So the one that showed up on our screen here. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that Thomas is a fool to put his fucking name out there, because you're going to get swamped by 1,000 people saying I'm worthy, blah blah blah, and because we did that once. Somebody posted publicly on Permies, and they were flooded with people saying I'm worthy, give it to me. I know I went into Missoula and I gave a presentation on Skip, and one of the people in the audience came up to me and said that I needed to give him the names of all the Otises I knew because he's worthy and he'll get them all sorted out. And I did not give him any information. I said, well, if you're worthy, you should be able to zip right through the PEP 1 in a moment. And he didn't want any part of that. He just wanted to get the land. And I don't know. The guy didn't strike me as probably as accomplished as he was selling himself, but maybe he was.
So it looks like to Thomas's reply here. So some Otises that do post about it get inundated, other ones don't. So it sounds like Thomas hasn't gotten inundated, and that's great. I'm glad. I guess I'm not glad.
Depends on what he wants.
Yeah. Yep. So we do tend to try to protect our Otises. So we're not giving out names. If you identify secretly as an Otis to me or Paul, we aren't going to spread that because we don't want you to get inundated. So it's kind of tricky. We know there are Otises out there, but we're not going to give out a list of names. So unfortunately, all the participants have to kind of trust us that they exist, but we're trying to protect them. So that's why we won't be giving out a list of names, because we don't want them to get inundated. They can post to the forums and put their name out there and try to get inundated if they want, but we're not gonna be the ones inundating them with.
I think most of the Otises have sent you a purple message or an email or something. And then I know that you have a thread where you kind of take an excerpt of their story and post it into the thread. Mm-hmm. And so there's a thread of Otis messages that we've received. I know the ones that I've seen, I feel so bad for them because they're so desperate to find somebody right now. And they want to do this now. They want to do it today. And I kind of feel like we're not there yet. So, all right. So for $450, people can come out. In fact, I'm looking at my stuff right now and I don't see that while the whole time we've been doing this event on YouTube, I'm kind of hoping that somebody will buy one of these tickets for $450 while we're here talking. That's kind of the thing that we're doing. We're trying to do this blitzy thing. And it's like, I know that to do this, I'm going into the red to provide this. And so so it's not like I'm getting rich or anything like that by doing this. It's a labor of love. I mean, boy, we've all put so much work into getting this to exist. Just because it seemed like the right thing to do. And I just now got an email from Rebecca. I think Rebecca, and don't we, so didn't we send a StreamYard link to Rebecca so she could be inside of our call here? I thought we invited a bunch of people to be in the call, but oh well. But Rebecca's planning on being there at the
Awesome.
event. She's BB 100, I think.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So, all right. I wish that people would buy these tickets. I love the idea of like, let's get those 12 sold and then we're full and we'll move forward and all of Skip will move forward. I love the idea that people who have a lot of skills and have 0 BBs come out and maybe help others, knock a bunch of these BBs out or even, show the rest of us, some advanced stuff on this or some nuanced stuff. All right, let's talk a little bit. So yeah, I like what Mike said. This is a really cheap vacation. It doesn't, I think it's deeply subsidized by me. So it's going to be pretty sweet. I think it's always been just a delightful time. Which is why like Mike and Opalyn keep coming back. Samantha, did you attend the Skip event last year?
No, I did not. I was just there to help out.
Okay. All right. There are some repeat people. And I think it's lovely. And we keep we keep improving the site a little bit every year. And so we're getting better and better and better at all this stuff. Let's see. This program, there's 1,477 projects in Skip that you can do. And there's a way to validate that you did it. And so, and then plus there's, I don't know, more than that if you include the oddball stuff, which Mike is the expert at oddball. And anybody who currently has 60 or more BBs done and verified gets a free ticket during this window to come to the event. But they got to tell us they're coming, however you're going to do it, whether you're going to post to that thread or, write to one of us or whatever. I'm going to basically cover all your costs to be here. And I'm kind of guessing that if somebody's got 60 or more BBs, that they'll probably help out with others, getting started to make things a little easier on the instructors, but they're probably going to be focused on their own BBs while they're here. I also like to think that whenever we do a lot of stuff, we offer a bunch of different freebies to people that have a lot of BBs. So we're already kind of giving different sets of perks to people who have a lot of BBs. So, and the last note I have for mentioning during our thing is that whole thing about meet that special someone. Yeah. And so I think, are we at 6 marriages for our summer events that we do? I don't know how many couples have been created at our events that are still going. But there's been some very long-lasting relationships. And I think that in the world of relationships, and I've podcasted about this several times, being excited about permaculture and or homesteading can, lead to divorcee-like things, as the two people think that they're interested in the same stuff, but as they get down into the nitty-gritty, their interest level divides. Oh yeah, thanks, Andreas. And so I think the most fun story, the story I like to tell the most is about Jennifer and Josiah. They both came for summer events. And apparently they both were keen on each other at the summer events, but they're both also too shy to say anything. So they both decided to independently join the boot camp afterwards. So they stayed in the boot camp, and it took 6 months until one of them had the nerve to say something to the other or whatever. and now they have babies and stuff, and so and they're married and all that. So I think that's kind of a perfect little story. But for I mean, I think meeting people, because if you get keen on permaculture and homesteading, it can be hard to meet somebody that shares your interests. And I think a lot of people find themselves out on a homestead or living out in the country doing permaculture stuff by themselves, and they're feeling very lonely. And so it's like, this is a great way to come and meet like-minded folks. All right, that's all of my notes. Although I think that it might not be a bad idea to start touching on some of the actual projects, perhaps.
Yes, I thought it'd be great to answer some of the questions that have come up in the chat, and then talk a little bit more about batch bits. So Tina wants to know, if I make a 3-legged stool, can I leave it there? Absolutely. A lot of the projects stay at Wheaton Lab. I've never heard of a 3-log bench leave the property. They're just too big.
Oh no, there is one.
Yeah, they did.
One that left. Okay.
They gave me like $20 for the wood. Yeah, they were so proud of their 3-log bench. It's like, hey, can I give you some money for the wood? Now I'm going to take this home.
Yeah, so one 3-log bench has left the property. A lot of 3-legged stools, a lot of kindling crackers, a lot of projects have stayed at Wheaton Lab, so that's totally fine. Another person wants to know.
Most of the 3-legged stools end up going into a rocket mass heater at some point, because it's your first stool. It's like,
exactly,
that is terrible.
And you learn a lot, and your second stool is going to be better.
That's true. That's
another person's asking about timber work, which I think the aspect is woodland care. So Mike, would you talk about woodland care for a little bit? Oh, there's the question on the screen again. So woodland care badge bits. What are we going to do in woodland care?
So we'll do the full woodland care badge. So it's cutting down live and dead trees, both with hand tools and chainsaws, be peeling live trees, cutting up dead trees into firewood, splitting and stacking that firewood, and probably a couple other little BBs that I'm forgetting. So basically lumberjacky kind of work is in that badge. There's also roundwood woodworking. So that's also timber work, maybe in a way. So we'll also get that badge. That's everything from making a 3-log bench, which is, so it's 3 pieces of logs, 2 that are like the legs this way, and then the bench that lays across the top of them with saddles and a flat top. Massive thing, 7 feet long or longer. So be building one of those. Actually, I got to check the list to make sure I don't miss.
For the 3-log bench, there was a guy here who made a bunch of 3-log benches, but he was an experienced arborist that showed up with 7 of his own chainsaws. And he said that he could make a 3-log bench in 20 minutes. Yeah, Mike's making a face like there's no way. That guy's so full of it. And
I've never seen a bench up there. And he made some 2-foot long 3-log benches. That's
a different guy. The guy who said he could do it in 20 minutes, his were nice and big. But I got to say that most people making 3-log benches, I would say it's about 3 to 4 hours. Although some people start polishing it and it's going to turn into a 6-hour project. Does that sound about right, Mike?
I think I can't remember. We've got 2 half days reserved for it. So usually it takes more than a half a day. So more than 4 hours for people. And yeah, once you've done one, you could probably knock it out in under 4 hours. But yeah, we have 2 days for that. Yeah.
I mean, you're going to take 2 short logs. You're going to flatten one side so it can sit on the ground. And then you're going to take a long log and you're going to put 2 saddle joints in it so it'll sit on top of the 2 logs and you're done.
No, you got to flatten the top also.
Oh, flatten the top. You're right. You're right. And that's usually most of the time right there is flattening the top, I think.
Yeah, because it has to be hand hewn at the end. You can chainsaw it flat, but then you got to like dress it up and make it look hand hewn. So,
yeah.
It takes a little time.
A few more of the badge bits in woodland care are peel 2 trees and put them up off the ground to dry. Split and stack a standing dead tree as firewood. Prep 10 junk poles. So we'll talk about junk pole fences in a minute. Cleave 6 shakes with a froe, and build or repair some junk pole fence. So those are the rest of the woodland care badge bits.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 3-log bench was in roundwood woodworking. So.
Yep. So the textiles badge I can talk about. I'm the first person to earn the straw badge in textiles. That was super exciting for me. And I have a lot of my initial projects. So here is some twine that I made from yucca plant. I did half of it in one style of like the rope braid, and half of it in the other style using a drop spindle, actually. So if I get a little close up, there we go.
Yeah. Nice.
So there's my twine, and it's 20 feet of twine using a natural plant fiber. Another one is make a basket. And in the vein of learning as you go, here is my first basket. This did not meet the requirements. There is no bullness to this. It is very flat. So that was my first one. And I learned a lot. I learned how to do a basket. And here's my second one. And as you can see, it's, you know, a solid 4 inches tall and 6 inches across, and has a bowl shape. All the spokes it has. This is made out of ivy, some invasive stuff here on my sister's property. And so there's my basket number 2. And then a couple of years ago, we had a woman come with willow that she had prepped. And so here is basket number 3. So, you know, almost 5.5 inches deep and 10 inches across. So it's about seal building. And so yeah, there's my baskets. Here's my washcloth. So this is knit or crochet a dishcloth. So you have to knit or crochet something, and this is one option of a dishcloth. The other option is a pot holder. Another option, or another badge bit, is to mend a hole. So quick darning. A lot of people do that on a sock. There's also sewing a patch, making a pillow. So I had this lovely cotton lace that I put over a dark blue fabric. And then initially I stuffed it with wool, and currently it's stuffed with an old cotton sheet. So there's my pillow. So those are all the artifacts. Paul calls them the artifacts for my straw badge bits. But then I also went on to do the straw badge. And so this is make a dog leash. So I learned how to do tablet weaving. And so this is, you know, 6 feet long. And I did this fun little split so that you can put your wrist through it and walk your dog. And I learned how to use my inkle loom, and I made a strap for a guitar. So I've got the hardware on the ends, and I've got, you know, a 5 foot long strap. And then I made a belt. So I did a lot of playing with various types of looms. So this is out of cotton yarn, and this was on this was make your own loom badge bit. So again, these are straw level badge bits, and the skip event focuses on sand level because that's, you know, the entry level. In order to earn your straw badge, you have to earn your sand badge first. Then I made a cowl. So this just slips over your head and keeps your neck warm. And I've altered jeans. Gosh, what all have I done?
Fixed my rug. You fixed my rug.
I fixed Paul's rug. So there's a style of rug with a very narrow warp thread outside of the weft thread, and those warp threads got damaged. So I repaired that. I also made some rugs. So this started out as 6 different sheets, and it's now a 6.5, 7 foot long, 3 foot wide rug.
Wow.
And so I did this. I finished it last year at in the afternoons and evenings when I wasn't teaching during the PTJ. And so those are the textiles badge bits that I had handy to show. Mike was talking about round wood and the 3-log bench, and this is another project. This is make some coat hooks. So you just take a little section of tree and trim it up, put a flat spot on the back, drill a hole, and hang it. And this one is 2 coat hooks. This one's a single coat hook. Here's another single coat hook. These are a lot of fun.
So as much as when we talk about PEP 1, the PEP 1 projects are pretty small, simple, quick kind of projects. And when we put this whole program together with the idea of like, what would it take for Mike Ayler to will his land to somebody, the general idea is PEP 4, which is where they've built a natural building. They've grown enough food to feed 4 people year round. We had some pretty substantial things to prove that a person, isn't just a poser in this space. But to get PEP 2 takes like 4 times longer than to get PEP 1. To get PEP 3 is probably going to be about 3 or 4 times longer than getting PEP 2. And getting PEP 4 is probably about 4 or 5 times longer than getting PEP 3. And so they're substantial projects. They're very big projects. Each level, the sand badges are like generally about 5 times more substantial than the sand badge stuff. And so then there's wood badge and then iron badge. Yeah. So it's kind of like, I feel like the skip event is going to be pretty dedicated to sand badge stuff.
Yep.
So a lot of quick projects, but these build your skills and get you moving in the general direction of being able to do a lot more. I would love to fill this up. Now, there is one note that I just made while Opalyn was sharing all of her stuff there. And that is that if I remember correctly, during one of the meals, pretty much everybody, I think most people uttered the phrase, "This is the best lasagna I have ever had in all of my life." Do I remember that correctly?
I believe it. Yeah.
I believe, Mike, I remember you saying it. Well, I can't remember if Opalyn said it. This is the best lasagna I've ever had in all of my life.
Is that, are we having the same cook this event?
Yes. Yeah. Cat 1. And so Cat 1 will be here cooking. She'll probably bring a spare kid with her. And like she did last year. And I do remember that we were getting a lot of rhubarb worked into almost every day. We were having some form of rhubarb. Here is Kim, very interested. It would be myself and daughter, age 15, in the Missouri. And it's like, yeah, cool. Kim, that's 2 tickets. And the Thistle program does have some requirements. And so one is that the 2 of you need to stay elbow to elbow through the whole event. And that's so that we don't have to think about what does it take for us to host events with people under the age of 18. That saves us from even having to think about it. And then there are 3 rules. Let's see if I can remember the 3 rules. And I'm sure that I've said it so many times that you guys will probably be able to help me. One of them is earn your beans. So don't be a slacker. The other is do what your mom or dad say. Do what your parental unit says. Like the rest of us, the adults, we need to see a good reaction time that makes us feel safe. If there's a kid there that like says, "Fuck you, mom, I don't care what you say," then we're kind of all feeling a little like, uh-oh, this could go south. I don't want to go wherever that kid is because if there's a dangerous situation, that kid will just turn it into something 10 times worse. And I don't want to be around when that happens. But if a kid is like, doing what mom or dad says without a bunch of bitching and moaning and just getting it done, being obedient, then that makes the rest of us, the adults, feel like that's a good kid. Everything will be fine. I'm not worried. And then the third thing is to use honorifics. And so that means this is Mr. Haasl. Unless Mr. Haasl has grander honorifics that I don't know about. And okay, all right.
I prefer Director.
So please don't address the adults by their first name. Please use honorifics to show respect, that you're going to be respectful to adults. And this is definitely one of those cases where each of these rules has history. But I think where we've ended up is a system that works very well, and everybody is comfortable, and it's delightful. So when youth have been here and followed the Thistle program, it's been delightful. It's been really good. So so Kim, bring your 15-year-old out here. It sounds like it would be a great. And so buy 2 tickets, one for you and one for the 15-year-old. And I'm excited. I love the idea of let's see some 15-year-olds out here doing this stuff. I think this is terrific. I think another thing is that we're selling the tickets so cheap that if a person can only come out for 1 week, preferably the first week, then I think it's still a hell of a deal for just 1 week. Does anybody know what the current price is outside of the deal? Like, what's our regular price right now? Is it like $2,000, $2,400?
Something like that.
Yeah. And so, coming out, so this price of $450 for just 1 week, I think is still a very, very sweet deal.
Yeah. In the past, we've done tickets for just 1 week at a time. And this year we're not, and that's because the price of these tickets right now is less than what that 1 week price would be. So the current ticket price for Skip is $2,250.
Yeah.
And the current sale price is $450. So come join us, spend $450, get 3 meals a day for 5 days.
Yeah.
Go spend the weekend in Missoula and hang out and feed yourself and camp at Wheaton Labs the whole time, and come back the next Monday morning and where you get fed 3 meals a day for another 5 days. And you can head off back to the airport or back home if you drove. There is some shuttling options that are on the website if you need a ride from the airport. Missoula Airport is where shuttle rides are offered from. You want to fly in somewhere else, you have to get yourself to Missoula or Wheaton Labs. I'm coming from the greater Seattle area, and I'll be at Wheaton Labs for 5 weeks this year, so I can't help with people's commutes really. Mike's coming up from Wisconsin, and he'll be there for 3-ish, I think. Is that right, Mike? 4 weeks.
Cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Yay. So Mike and I will be there for the PTJ event and the Skip event. Samantha will be there this summer helping out, and it's a good time. Like, please join us.
I want to add a couple things there. One is that we do have some cabins and some bunks that are still available. So if people want to rent those, it's a little extra. The next thing is I want to say a very weird thing. And for those of you that have been here before, you're used to this weird thing. Food is not included in your ticket. However, I will provide 3 meals a day of my food for whoever is here for this event, but it's not included in your ticket.
Right.
Now, there's a bunch of reasons for that, but I'd have to say the number one reason is that we have people in the past who have gone to the cook and said, you have to provide me with my wackadoodle diet food. and basically driving the cook insane. And so if you have special dietary needs, you need to provide those yourself. But if you aren't too picky, we'll be providing breakfast. I will be providing breakfast, lunch, and dinner, simple fare in each day. There is an interesting thing that we started doing a few years ago, which I rather like, which we call butterfly days. So it's 5 days of event, 2 butterfly days, Saturday and Sunday, and 5 more days of event. I have hopes, and in fact, it seems like in past events with this new format, a lot of people go hit local hot springs, or they float the river, or do Montana stuff, Lewis and Clark Caverns, a run to Glacier National Park, or I think most people go to enjoy Missoula, which is and Mike tries to tell me that because I try to say Missoula is the best town in the world, and Mike keeps telling me that he thinks there are some that could be better, and I have a hard time hearing that. But on Saturday, people tend to go to the Missoula Farmers Market, which is utterly glorious. There's the Missoula population is 85,000, and there's more than 8,000 people at the Saturday market every Saturday. And it'll take you a good 4 hours to get through it. I think most people probably don't even do half, when they go into the Saturday market, but it is glorious. And if you've got extra time, definitely swing by the carousel in Missoula. It's hand carved by the Missoula community. And when I say that, you might think that it looks like it's hand carved by the Missoula community. And it's like, actually there's, somehow a real artist stepped in or something. They're beautiful. It's a stunning thing. I could talk about the Missoula carousel for more than an hour, but I'm going to leave it there. Missoula is fantastic. There's so much in Missoula to go and enjoy. And so I think most people just simply do that. But I know that there's some people where they organize a big mass of everybody going to some hot springs in the area. And so there'll be a bunch of that kind of activity. And then I think there were signups for a float trip nearby or something too. So lots and lots and lots to do on the butterfly days.
You can also go to Free Cycle, which is a nonprofit that gets bikes to kids in the Missoula area, and you can earn your bicycle points for the tool care badge if you don't have a bicycle at home to do those repair projects. So that's another option.
And we also have a list within our plan of all the planned BBs that we'll cover. There's a whole bunch of side ones that you could do on your own spare time at Wheaton Labs using Paul's equipment and tools. So you can work, maybe not equipment on the weekends, but like you can carve a spoon on the weekend with the spoon carving tools that you might not have at home in Seattle. And so, or you catch up on the project. So yeah, you can do whatever you want on the weekend. You can knock out more BBs. You can watch the clouds go by. Plenty of stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people do that. They work on BBs throughout the weekend. They just keep going while they're here, while they have access to all the stuff. We won't be serving food, but hey, you'll be fine. You'll do great. I feel like the butterfly days are amazing. I'm really glad we implemented them. It really gives the instructors and the cook a couple of days to rest in the middle of the event.
And the boots.
Oh yeah, the boots. It sounds like we're going to have quite a few boots here during this event. The boots work to make the event extra delightful, and they'll see to it that everybody has tools and materials for their BBs and things of that nature. So, and of course, there's also openings in the boot camp right now. If anybody wants to come and be part of the boot camp now and kind of start doing this, and we've got boots in the boot camp right now that are trying to rack up a few BBs every week while they're in the boot camp. Yeah, and so there's some of that as well. We do allow people during the boot camp to pursue BBs like during the boot day. If like we're going to go work on blah 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 blah, then they'll be like, oh, I can turn that into a BB, and it's like, all right, man, the rest of us will step back and you'll get the BB for that. So there's a fair bit of that. All right.
If you boot camp enough, you can it's a work trade for like an event next year too, right?
I'm not sure we're going to continue doing that.
Okay.
I think right now, in fact, I think we're past that. Like if you wanted to do that for work trade for this year, I think that window closed, and I don't think we're going to do it again.
Okay, I didn't say anything. Just rewind.
I will say we're about to close the window. I think June 9th is the last day somebody can join the boot camp and possibly get the 1 acre. And it's like after that, we're no longer offering that.
Sharon renamed it the booty camp.
Well, that's fun. I don't know if there's a lot of that going on. I don't think so. I mean, if you want to, the story I just told about Jennifer and Josiah, sure. Oh, it's autocorrect. Okay. All right. I know that there are communities where the community seems to be focused on booty. I don't think we're one of those communities. I kind of get the feeling everybody here. In fact, I learned a very fascinating thing the other day. I was visiting with an anesthesiologist, and they have to ask this question as a person is going to get anesthesia of, hey, in the last year, how much hooch or weed or whatever. And he was saying it's 99% plus that have hooch or weed or something. And I kind of feel like, and here at Wheaton Labs, we say none of that, although we still allow hooch, but we kind of give it the stink eye. So I would say that in the last 5 years, there's been near zero hooch. And so there may be, if there's any, it's very, very slight, has been my impression. But the fact that our stuff here, we say, no weed, no tobacco, none of that stuff. I think that really drives. So now with that new thing about 99% plus, wow, we're catering to those very rare folks that are kind of done with all of that or just have no interest or whatever. I will say that we get a lot of Mormons here. A lot of the people that come are Mormons. We get, in fact, there's people that have come here many times, and I just recently learned that Mormon. Oh, I didn't know that. It's like, oh yeah. So apparently we're popular in the Mormon circles. But I don't know. I know that there have been a couple of times that people have pointed out, well, if you allow tobacco or you allow weed, you'll get 10 times more people. And that is true. But and then I turn to whoever's there, and might be a dozen people there, and I say, who likes that we have this standard? And usually it's 11 out of 12 put their hand up. Ooh, me. Yeah. I like this standard that we have here, although I know it really limits the number of people that come here. And here's a comment I see. I'm not into partying, and it's like I don't know if this is like saying no to partying. I think I know partying. They have game night on Thursday nights. They play board games. Penny Ante poker has happened a few times, but yeah, I would guess partying is, I'm not sure. You guys have been here. I tend to go to bed at 7 or 8. For those of you that stay up later, is there partying? I'm not sure. I know that sometimes there's a big mess to clean up in the morning.
There's often a big party after the talent show of the permaculture design course, which we're not having this year. And often on the last night, there's a bit more of the party vibe because everybody's excited to be done. And you know, tomorrow morning they'll be packing up and heading out, and they just want to spend that social time. And there is often as not a mess to clean up the next day. But generally it's not an everyday thing. Mike?
Yeah, often for things outside of just working on projects and eating good food and all that, often there's about an hour between when we're done cleaning up our projects and when dinner happens. And often a run down to the river happens with some swimming. There's also sometimes some options to get cold and damp around base camp with some kind of, with a kiddie pool or something. Also now there is, due to some hard work from Katie and a few other people up at the lab, there's a sauna for people who want to get even hotter in the summer. Last year there was a little bit of a campfire action once in a while, and the sauna got christened on the last night. So yeah, there have been card games at night till the wee hours as well. So there's some social stuff that goes on as well.
Right. And then as far as like the thing about the marriages, I know that there's been a lot of people who pair off and go and then they are besties for the duration of the event. Whatever you call that. There's that. Is that partying? I'm not sure if you call that partying. So there's some of that. But I don't know. I think it's pretty light. I know that I request people to just leave the hooch alone. I don't want to ban it, but it does seem like 8 years ago or more, there were issues, like people got a little carried away. And the way they get carried away is somebody brings a bunch in and shares it, including sharing it with some people that don't handle their hooch well, and it leads to drama and comedy. And so it's like, please, let's just leave that out if we can. I would rather not just outright ban it, but and so I think the last 8 years or so, it's been very light. We haven't had any of that drama, which has been good. Yes, Mike?
I saw a question. I don't know if I saw a question in the comments that popped up for a second about somebody who's done a whole lot of projects in the past, and do they need to redo them to get the BBs? And yeah, we do get that question from time to time. In order to get the BB, it always lists the required proof. So it's often a picture before you did the project, a picture midway through, and a picture at the end. But it depends on the BB. They're all clearly listed. So you can have done this stuff 30 years ago. If you have the pictures, you can submit them now and get the BB. If you don't have the pictures or the video, then yeah, you have to redo them, but it should go a lot faster the second time. So if I'd have known about Skip 10 years earlier when I was remodeling basements and building a cabin, I could have knocked out a whole lot of things. But oh well, it's amazing. As soon as you're like, oh man, I just installed a sink, then surprisingly, in the next month, you need to install another sink, and then you can take the pictures and get it. So yeah, you do need the proof. Doesn't matter if you've done it in the past, but you need the proof to get the BB.
I'm going to say we offer this sweet deal in the hopes that people will buy the ticket for $450. And it's like, I think it's Monday is the last day.
Yep.
Yeah, Monday. Okay. And there's usually a cutoff time. And so I got to say that during this event that we're doing right now, we have had a total of 0 sales of tickets. And so I'm kind of like thinking like, well, maybe we're going to like not hit the target of 12. Until noon on Mountain Time on Monday. Okay, there you go.
I'm sure everyone's just checking their schedules, and they got They'll get them bought by Monday. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. All right. So I should stop worrying.
Yeah.
I'd like to see those sales grinding through. Also, if like today, if we hit 12 today, then we're done. It's closed. And so if you're going to be, lollygagging, that might not be wise. We're doing our best to try to keep everything updated. But once we hit 12, we're closing it up. There are no more tickets after 12. And if we don't hit 12, then we're going to refund everybody's ticket. This is probably a good time to point out that if we do hit 12, there's no refunds. And so this is part of the deal for it being so cheap. But if we hit 12, we close it all up, and then you'll be contacted by our peeps to say, do you want to rent a cabin or do you want to pitch a tent? Are you coming on an airplane or do you need directions on how to get here? Stuff like that, which we hope to have one new place ready for a land whale or one of those sprinter vans, but a place where you could park out by the new well. So nice. It's not quite ready yet, but we're working on it over the next couple of weeks during the boot camp to get it ready for the upcoming summer events.
The new well on base camp?
A new place to park a giant ass land whale or a small thing at RV. Base camp.
Thank you.
That's where the new well is. So last year we got a brand new well. So now we have unlimited water, which is so nice. But there's a spot where the well went in that they needed to be able to get the giant well drilling truck into. And we are now we had to do a whole bunch of earthworks to make it so that they could have a place to put the truck to drill the well. And now we're trying to slowly transform that so it's a nice place to park a land whale. And there's, I believe, electricity and water there at that spot. So that's hopefully going to be available for those people because we get some people that show up in a big ass land whale and they want to stay in that. And it's like, okay, we can help with that. So that should be available. We're also exploring some other stuff along those lines as well, because that seems to be a big thing where people have got like an RV or whatever, and they love to come to a place like this with their RV. And so we're trying to facilitate that better. Okay.
Yeah, I just noticed something. I don't know if anyone who's coming to the event or has bought a ticket already has thought of this, but if you're worried about not all 12 tickets selling out, you can buy 3 spare tickets and give them to your friends, and it's still cheaper than buying 1 ticket at the normal price. So if you're hurting for early Christmas presents, birthday presents, buy a few extra tickets to make sure it gets to 12 and bring your friends along.
I want to kind of express that I'm a little sad that like the whole skip program doesn't have 1,000 times more activity than it currently does. It hurts me. I mean, we put so much work into it. And if you're going to create a program like this, like and of course we mashed it into a book, but writing the book for the skip program probably took 4 times longer than writing the Better World book. This thing that we did, it just took so long to make it. We were so concerned about it being correct and good. And, but boy, that was a lot of work. And frankly, I mean, the book is less than 200 pages, but I kind of feel like there's 600 pages of stuff smushed into that 200 page book. Yeah. I think it's so information dense. But I thought that for sure, the moment that this book goes out, it's going to go viral and the whole free program will go viral and viral everything. And I'm a little sad that it's, like like I'm a little sad that all the tickets haven't already sold out for the skip event, and it seems so odd to me. But I don't know, I'm a weirdo, I guess. But you guys helped so much with making this happen. I suspect that you're in the same boat I am. You probably thought that it was going to do 1,000 times better than it has because of the just sheer volume of work we put into it. Am I close?
Yeah, it's sad that, and it is sad to put all that work in and it hasn't taken off immediately. But, you can spend 4,000 hours working on Minecraft and not have something big happen. It doesn't feel like a waste. So hopefully it'll lead to something awesome. I think the first time somebody goes on Good Morning America and says, "Hey, I got this wonderful property by doing this skip program," or you never know what makes something go viral, and it could just suddenly blow up on us out of the blue. I hope so. I don't know. I should probably do more promotion on it. Maybe it's all my fault, I'm sure.
I think Ernie Wisner, when he talks about rocket mass heaters, his thing is that he says, my mom told me that if you build a better mousetrap, the world will be a path to your door. And it turns out she lied. And because, of course, rocket mass heaters are that glorious. And yet, where's that path? And I don't know. I guess things are just different now. If you don't have a $200 million advertising campaign, then it doesn't work. I mean, I think that there's these movies that come out and it'll be a great movie, but if they don't have a $200 million advertising campaign, which will match the $200 million they spent to make the movie, then so they'll have spent $400 million, then they'll possibly get their $400 million back. But if they don't spend $200 million, then they won't even get $100 million back. Something like that. And it's kind of like, I guess this is the world we live in now. I don't have $200 million to advertise a free program like Skip. And so, I don't know, I guess we're all so it all begins with, can we have people come to this event and get going, get started and do this? I mean, if we can fill the event, sell all 12 tickets, we could start talking about things like maybe we should host 2 of these per year, and stuff like that. Or maybe we should find a way to have more people at the event, and stuff like that, and help move all this forward more and more and more. But it's tough to do that, when things are just kind of eking by. But I think that the thing itself is amazing. I imagined when we were writing all this stuff, I imagined that for somebody living in a medium-sized city, that they would have an opportunity every month to drive less than an hour away to some homestead and be able to put in a day or 2 of, BB stuff. They'd have a BB event there. And people would be able to show up and get a bunch of BBs. And I still think that could happen, but wow, we've been struggling with this. And so what an odd thing. So anyway, I hope we can do so much more. I hope it could take off. And I'm not sure how to get there. We just keep trying, I guess. So in the meantime, I'm deeply subsidizing an event in the hopes to move it all forward. And,
awesome.
So whoever comes gets to have all the candy, I guess.
Yeah. And
So we had another question on what else are we doing? So I'm going to try to share my screen. And
Okay,
it
I'm going to be
is
right back.
telling me something. We'll do this one. There we go. So here's an example of a badge bit submission. So again, a badge bit is a project, a single project. You do a bunch of badge bits and you earn a badge. There are 22 different badges or aspects of PEP, which is permaculture experience according to Paul. And this is my submission for the dimensional lumber woodworking, which building a simple birdhouse. So I talk about a little bit about the research that I did and then the requirements. Like Mike said, it's often a starting photo, like what materials are you starting with, about halfway through, and the finished project. So here's some wood with measuring tape so you can gauge the size. Here's drilling the entrance hole. Here's all the parts and pieces. And mid-assembly, I did this interesting little gutter thing to help keep everything dry. So there's a little notch cut out in the underside of the roof to help it shed water nicely. And then here it is fully assembled and mounted about 10 feet high. And that's based on what that particular bird needs. And so a lot of bird houses have that cute little perch on the front of it. And that actually allows other birds and other critters to get in there and bother the animal that's actually living there. So it depends on the type of bird that you're building a bird nest for, whether or not you would want to do that. So that's one of the projects. So we'll be doing a lot of dimensional lumber woodworking projects. We talked a little bit about round wood. There's another one. So the berm scaffold. So to put a horizontal beam. So when you build a hugelkultur or a berm, they're often really big. And so how do you climb up and down and navigate? So the berms in at Wheaton Labs, we've put vertical pieces. And then this project is to notch out the wood and put a very stable, sturdy horizontal log so that you can walk across. And do that. And if you don't have a hugelkultur or a big berm, this is a project you can't do at home. So this is one that it's a lot easier to do in Wheaton Labs when you already have the hugelkultur installed, and often the verticals are installed. And it's a really awesome experience in 3D geometry cutting. And so this is one of the projects where you can have help on lifting things, but not on like cutting and working things. So all of the batch bits are work that is done by the individual submitting them, with the exception of like lifting and moving things that are too heavy to do safely. So you can have help lifting your horizontal beam up and seeing how close you are to the 3D geometry and what else you need to adjust so that your horizontal beam fits really snugly. But any help cutting the notches and you disqualify yourself from that badge bit. So, you know, be really aware of, you know, that you're doing all the work to earn the badge bit. So,
Otis needs to know that if he or she gives their land to you, you are the one that has done all the skills and earned the badges, not a team of people.
So we have a question about, this is a free program. This absolutely is a free program. You can do all the badge bits at home that you can do. You may or may not be able to earn a higher level certification depending on what area you're in and whether or not you have access to equipment or land. But the program, the SCIP program itself is free. The $2,000 that we mentioned earlier was the ticket price to attend the event, and that is the standard ticket price. And that covers, the event and the tools and the materials and your free camping. You can rent a cabin if you want a higher end, more comfortable space. And that event is what's now on sale for $450. And we're looking to sell 12 tickets, and that will fill up the event for this summer, and we'll focus on helping that group of people do as many badges as they want to do. So that's a little bit more about the pricing that we've been talking about. So it's the event that costs. The program is free. And I started my PEP journey in the fall of 2020. I knew about Permies, but I didn't understand this PEP and skip thing. It took me a while to wrap my head around it. And when I did, I just started doing badge bits. And so that was in September of 2020. And just within a few days, I'd actually earned 20 badge bits, and I learned about a BB20 event. So that's an event held at Wheaton Labs for anyone who has 20 badge bits to come and spend Monday through Friday at Wheaton Labs working on badge bits. And so I came to that event, and that gave me a good experience and an introduction to Wheaton Labs. From there, I attended every event for the next 3 years, just about. And now, so I spent 2020, the fall of 2020, earning badge bits and then attending BB20. And by the spring of 21, I was coming to the PC, the PTJ, and the skip event. And I spent 4 weeks at the PTJ and the event focusing on badge bits. And about halfway through, was it the PTJ, Mike? I earned all 16 of the 22 badges. And that means I earned PEP 1. And before I left Wheaton Labs, I got special permission to run some of the rocket stoves. And I'd run some of them during the winter that I'd been there in October. And before I left Wheaton Labs, I'd earned all 22 sand badges. And so it is possible to knock out a lot of badges and do a lot of work in the time that people are there. So it's been a lot of fun. And every year I've focused on a straw badge. So I've earned straw badge in textiles. And wow, I have to look it up. What else have I earned a straw badge in? Natural medicine and homesteading. So next,
basically,
Mike.
come on out and get a bunch of BBs, get a bunch of experience. I don't know. I think for a lot of people, it's just about the experience of it. I think I would guess that about a third of the people that come and do the projects, they never submit a single picture for a BB. They years later, they still have 0 BBs, but they came and they did the projects. They just wanted to understand the very basics of this stuff, I guess. And so it was mostly just an outing to them, I suppose. And that's cool. I don't care. It's fine with me. I mean, I would prefer it if we had a lot more people who had the BBs, like officially and formally. But sure, I'll take it. You know, come on out. Let's move all this stuff forward. Really, that's what the whole skip program is about: physical accomplishments.
Yep.
And it's like I don't know. We need more of that and earlier Minecraft was mentioned, and it does seem like there's. I mean, I don't know how many. Is there like 100 million people that spend large tracts of time in Minecraft, and they probably never do anything in the physical world? They probably don't even clean their own room or something. So I kind of feel like Otis is not interested in that. And so that's how this program came to be. But I don't know, another angle on it might be like, what do you think of yourself when you have 60 BBs? And I think that I have heard a lot about people where they're struggling with depression.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently this is considered, I don't know, I'm not going to say a cure, but apparently it is something that some people think of this as being the thing that helps them get past that. And I kind of wonder if it's a difference between, on the one hand, playing video games and getting stoned all day, every day. And on the other hand, you know, you've got 60 BBs done. You've made a bunch of stuff and accomplished some things, and you got outside and you did some things and you took pictures to prove that you did it. And so, as opposed to impressing an Otis, you're impressing you. I mean, that's kind of how I heard it. Anybody got any thoughts down that road? No, I'm on my own.
I do, but I was trying to let Mike or Samantha speak first because I just talked. I definitely know, like, setting a goal of, like, you know, I like finally wrapped my brain around this, like I said, in the fall of 2020, and in the midst of COVID and lockdowns, and like, I can't go anywhere, I can't do anything. I lost my job in the spring, and it just like really gave me something to get up and do. And it's like, I know how to do textiles. I'm gonna crochet this thing and get a badge bit, and I know how to, you know, do this. And I'm like, I've always been interested in natural medicine, and so like this was like a well, some people say that this is a program to learn things but not to learn things, and that people are like, what are you talking about? It's like, we're not going to teach you, we're not going to hold your hand and say, you know, take this many. It's not like 7th grade science class where you take this many milliliters of this acid and this many milliliters of this base and combine them and find out the pH and then like measure the pH. Like, you know, this is like, hey, go make a dishcloth, and if you need some help, here's some YouTube links. Hey, go build a birdhouse, and the Audubon link, and here's some images of what other people have done. And I find that looking through other people's submissions really super valuable. Like, when I don't understand what, like, anything about it, like, okay, there's already a dozen people who've submitted this badge bit, and I can go and like look through those and be like, oh, that's what they're talking about, and this is what the goal is. And like, because you can read a few words, but you know, the dozen pictures or so that are down in everybody's posts, hundreds sometimes, of like, you know, what people made for dinner, and the food preparation badge bit is like pretty inspiring. And, you know, to go above and beyond, and not just, oh, I'm going to like cut 4 pieces of wood and make a tiny little crappy birdhouse. No, I want to make a birdhouse that a bird that I'd like to have on my property would like to live in. So, you know, that was really fun. But like having a goal of, you know, I really wanted a badge bit in every aspect before I got to Wheaton Labs for the summer or to the spring. I'm not sure. I think I went to BB20 in the fall, and then I came back for BB20 in spring of 21. Then I was there for 6 weeks over the summer, and like, just like finding something that was worth making a goal out of was really valuable. Definitely.
So then, I kind of feel like, I mean, I see a lot of odd things. I get presented with a lot of odd questions. I don't know, because I have this weird role that I play in the middle of all this stuff. And so, when it comes to depression, which I know nothing about, I don't think I've ever had depression. I'm not qualified to comment on it, but it does seem to me, when it's described to me or something, I do kind of have to wonder, like, would pursuing 20 BBs be healing to people who do have depression? And I don't have an answer. But maybe.
I'm going to say pursuing and achieving 20 BBs would be beneficial for everybody.
Ooh, well said.
Yeah.
Nice. Good.
And there's
Good.
one gentleman, I think 2 years ago, forget his name. Maybe I wouldn't share it anyway. But yeah, he was doing a few of the roundwood BBs with peeling wood and making notches. And he just totally went off on his own thing and said, I'm going to make a guitar stand for my guitar. And he spent like 5 days making this little wooden contraption out of sticks. And we're looking at it, it's like, oh, you better not bump that or the guitar's going to fall down. But he loved it. And he's like, this has changed me. I am now going to get into timber framing. And he, like, every vacation from then on turned into going to, I forget where, Japan, somewhere, to learn to get into timber framing. So it like was life changing for him to just play with some sticks and whittle and carve on things to make them fit together. And it just was his Zen thing. And it sounded like it was changing his life. So getting into this could be good for anyone for any number of reasons.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It seems so odd that people want to go and get a degree at a university, a 4-year degree, or maybe even a 6-year degree or a 10-year degree at a university so that they could get a good paying job. And then when you're at this job, if you're lucky, you like the people that you work with and it's actually delightful. But there are some people where they go get a job in their field and it is brutally frustrating and challenging and hard. And they paid $100,000 in debt, which could possibly turn into $200,000 by the time they get it all paid back. But they went through all of this to get this job where they have to go for 40 hours a week and they get 2 weeks of vacation a year. And it is an unkind experience. And but they have to stick to it in order to be able to pay back the debts and stuff like that. And I don't know. I feel like where the word skip, the whole thing about inheriting property, that's where we started. And that's, and we still haven't achieved that yet. But the concept of being able to skip the rat race is far more effective. Like, rather than going to college for 4 years and then getting a 40-year worky job and then retiring, you could skip directly to retirement. And I think the only ones of us that know this are those of us that have encountered the Otises.
Yeah.
And to know that that's true. And it's sad to me when the Otises are so desperately trying to find somebody, and then simultaneously to have young people talking about making the leap to a university and going into debt for so long. And yet it's kind of like, I really want you to do the skip program so that way you can experience the shortcut and then the Otis can be satisfied as well. This is so crazy and heartbreaking to me that we can't bring these people together yet. We've done all the work, really, but and the Otises are lining up, and we can't get the young people to make the leap, I guess. And
Yeah,
I don't know.
If I go talk to a Rotary Club, there invariably one or two of the folks there are like, oh yeah, I sound like an Otis. So in a half hour, I can talk to a group of elders and find one or two Otises out of 20 people in a room. Every time, it seems. It takes a lot longer to make a participant up to maybe PEP 2 level. A year of hard work, or of a good long bit of effort to do that. So I'm focusing what effort I am on getting youngins into this, because we suffer for a lack of skippers, not a lack of Otises. So showing them there's another path. It's right here. It's free or cheap, and it's fun.
I kind of wonder, like, let's suppose that we had, I want to make something. Mike, I'm going to use you as a puppet for a moment. Please forgive me. So let's suppose Mike moves to Wheaton Labs, and he is going to, for 10 months out of the year, he's going to teach skip stuff. And then, and so people could choose to go into a 4-year university program, or they could come and spend 4 years at, with Mike, doing skip stuff. I would imagine at the end of 4 years, you've reached PEP 3. Does that seem about right?
I think so. Opalyn.
It seems reasonable. If that's your only job, if you don't have a worky job, if you can focus,
yeah.
And so it kind of seems like I would think Otises would be falling over themselves right now for somebody who has PEP 3. And it's like, and it sounds crazy, but we don't have a program like that. And I suppose that's one thing that the university has that the skip program does not have. And that is that you go to the university, you're told where to go, you sit in on a class, the professor tells you what to think, what book to read, and then gives you tests, and you turn in homework maybe. I don't know. You're kind of spoon-fed the whole way. Of course, after 4 years, you haven't really built anything at all, other than maybe understanding, which is good. That is delightful. I enjoyed college. I thought it was great. But you really haven't made anything.
Right.
And so, but on the other hand, you did have somebody basically spoon feeding you for 4 years. And what is it, like only 1 out of 3 actually completes a 4-year program, something like that? It's kind of depressing when you look at the stats. But maybe the spoon feeding thing, which of course this event that we're doing is kind of spoon feeding, but it's not 4 years of spoon feeding. And so I don't know if there was greater interest in our current skip events, we could contemplate moving forward with something that could be a 4-year program to replace, because that's another thing too, is like a lot of youth that go into college, they're not saddling themselves with $100,000 worth of debt. Their folks paid for it. Their folks covered it. And so they walk out after 4 years with a degree to go get a good worky job, and they don't have all that debt lingering over them. Well, I don't know. If we had enough interest in the skip stuff, we could potentially start to explore the idea of having a program like that. But we're not there yet. Dark Skin Woman says, I may be able to help promote the program. How can I get in touch? I would say post in that thread out at Permies right now. I would love to hear how to promote the program. I mean, it is a free program, so it's like there's, but on the other hand, if an opportunity presented itself, like, if we came up with $1,000, we could do this amazing thing. Sometimes we go out and we say, hey, everybody, we have an opportunity for a thing. Who wants to help us? Like, can people throw in $20 to help us get to $1,000? There's people that come out of the woodwork and throw money at us for stuff. So but most of it we're doing for free. I mean, I'm going to pay a lot of money to subsidize this event. Which thread is being asked? I'll bet you that within 30 seconds, the thread will pop up in the chat. I know I've got it on here. If you go to, okay. I know if you go to permies.com/T/256154, you'll see the Freaky Cheap Tickets thread. But, all right. That would be a place to begin. And then, like, I don't know, conversations with some of the VAs or stuff like that. We gotta, we've
Oh,
got
what's a
all
VA?
the virtual assistants, my assistants who help me. But there's also there's about 40 people on the Permies.com staff, 3 of whom are on this meeting with me, who help people all the time with all sorts of things. What? So Mike's counting.
Yeah,
You need to take off your shoes for that counting, buddy. Okay. So anyway, there's all kinds of people willing to help you help this. And I know I'm kind of out of ideas. We've tried so many things over the years. I don't know what else to do. It did get a big bump during the COVIDs as people were stuck at home and they could do a lot of this stuff at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does seem like but then when the COVIDs were over, it kind of seemed to fizzle a bit. I would love to see 8,000 people being currently active in this, at least as many as are attending the University of Montana. For free, it seems like it should be easy. So I think we need to get at least one person who's inherited property, and that might help. And then, of course, we need 100 people that have inherited property, and that would help. So, all right. I think we're getting towards the finish line for our thing today. I'm a little, go out and buy a ticket. Damn it. No one's bought a ticket for this whole 2-hour thing, this whole 2-hour blitz. Damn it. People, buy those tickets. Anybody else got anything else to add to this? No, we're good. We're ready to wrap it.
Yeah.
Mike?
I was going to say, tell your friends to buy a ticket. All the thousands of people watching us. Maybe you don't want to do it, but tell them to do it. And we'll see you in Montana this summer.
If you want a property, it's just the easiest way to get property. I mean, instead of working for your whole life at some job, you just have to do the projects and you can have a huge place. It's
especially now at the beginning, because we have very few people. We have 0 people achieving PEP 2, and we've told the Otises to hold off for PEP 2. 0 PEP 2. I think I'm going to say we have more than 30 Otises, but I wouldn't be surprised if several of them have died since we started doing this. And so the number is probably smaller now, but I can't help but think that once this all starts to take off, the number of Otises will go over 100 pretty fast, and it'll always exceed the number of skippers. But I think right now, in the future, people will need to get PEP 3 or PEP 4 in order to get property. But right now, I think whoever gets PEP 2 first is going to have like 20 options, I think.
Yeah,
so,
right now you just have to be near the front of the pack, and it doesn't take much running to get ahead of. I think me and Opalyn are just by nature at the front of the pack, and it isn't that hard to get up get up to where we are or get past us and get to PEP 2 and get your property. So, early on, get in while the getting's good.
Yep.
If you like this sort of thing, come on out to the forums at Permies.com, where we talk about skip, homesteading, and permaculture all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, thank you.